Welcome to Minnesota Sports Talk. I'm Josh Coan.
I'm Carter Burquest.
Today we're talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Some news came out recently that Andrew Wiggins may not be happy with his role as the third kind of option here in Minnesota. We just gave him a pretty big paycheck. Is this going to have to be addressed? Is Wiggins a part of the long-term plans with the Timberwolves, or is there an issue where we might have to get rid of Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that quite frankly makes me pretty upset that Wiggins would say something like this. He's taking the most shots on the team, doesn't really play a whole lot of defense a lot of times, doesn't really do a whole lot besides shoot the ball and score. And so that's pretty frustrating that he is quote-unquote upset being the third option behind two players that are clearly better than he is. If he can't see that those two players at this point are better than he is, then he's got some problems. And so that's pretty upsetting that he would say that. And quite frankly, as much of a Wiggins advocate as I have been in the past few years, I'm starting to see the other side of the coin there. Tends to be very inefficient, tends to kind of disappear when for large periods of the game, and just doesn't provide a whole lot of value besides scoring. And that's something that's gonna need to be addressed. He's gonna need to get better. I just don't feel like he's gotten a lot better. Every single year we keep talking about his potential. Again, he is only 22, but this is his fourth year in the league, and he just seems to be not that much better than he was when he first came into the league. And so, I do think it is something that can be addressed. And, quite honestly, if you can get Butler locked up long term, and that is one thing that's a big if because he is a free agent coming up after next year, I'm completely okay with trading Andrew Wiggins. One thing that floated out there is Kawhi seems to be kind of unhappy in San Antonio. Maybe you can do Andrew Wiggins, and if you give him Tyus or a point guard and a first-round pick or something like that, maybe that could work, and we could maybe get the best defensive front or backcourt in the NBA with Kawhi and Jimmy Butler. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that makes me nervous only because if he goes to Pop's going to somehow turn him into a perennial all-star, and they're going to win championships. I would much rather trade him to Orlando or a team like that probably isn't going to do a whole lot with him. But I'm actually going to defend Andrew Wiggins a little bit. I know that obviously I've been a Levine over Wiggins since the day we drafted those guys. But I would still take Levine every single time. But I'm going to defend Wiggins a little bit. One, I think we're blowing this up a little bit. I don't think it's like he's going to the media and asking for trades, or he's complaining to Tibbs or to Glenn Taylor. He's maybe with his buddies in the locker room maybe said some things where he's having a hard time with this third role. And I do think it's difficult for him, and I understand why it would be difficult for him to be the third option. He should be able to see that he's the third best player on this team, or at least not any better than the third best. But all of his life, he's been the guy. Back in high school, at Kansas, even when the Wolves drafted him, they force-fed him the ball, especially in the fourth quarter in the clutch. They were like, it's your team, you go for it. And so I think he's having a hard time adjusting, okay, I'm not going to get force-fed the ball anymore, so my shots are going to have to come within the flow of the offense. And as we've talked about before, the Wolves don't have a good flow to the offense. So Andrew Wiggins is having a hard time, okay, where do I fit if your point guard's playing iso ball and Jimmy Butler's playing iso ball, and you throw it down low to Cat and he's getting his shots? Where does Wiggins fit in this unless he gets the ball and plays iso? And now you got everybody just playing isolation basketball, and unless you're as good as LeBron James, you can't just all play isolation basketball. Like, you have to have a flow to the offense. So this to me is going to come down to the coach, like we've talked about before. It's on Tibbs to find a role and a fit for talented players. You can't say, oh, we can only have 2 talented players. You have to have 3 and 4 and 5 talented players to win championships. If the Golden State Warriors can find a way to keep Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green happy, and have Nick Young coming off the bench and Andre Iguodala and the guys that they have coming off the bench, if they can find a way to share the ball and keep all those guys happy, now winning fixes a lot. But I think the Wolves should be able to find an offensive flow in which you can keep 2 All-Stars and 1 maybe borderline could be someday All-Stars happy, getting enough touches, getting enough shots, efficient shots within the flow of the offense that's comfortable for them. So I'm going to defend Wiggins a little bit and say he is not comfortable in this offense because they're not making the offense comfortable for everyone. He shouldn't be the first or second option, but he should be comfortable in his role as the third option, and I think that's on the coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make some great points. I think Andrew Wiggins is really having a tough time adjusting to that third option role. And quite honestly, if you want my opinion, I don't think he's a third option. I think he's a number one option wherever he goes, number two at worst, just because of his playing style. He's a guy that likes to kind of create his own shot. You know, a third option typically maybe stands in the corner a little bit more, waits for a catch and shoot jumpers. That's just not his game. He likes to have the ball in his hands and create. And so I just think he's not the best third option. Now, I do think he can adapt a little bit more, get a little bit better at those things that third options typically do, and that could really help. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I think there is a chance that we maybe explore some sort of Andrew Wiggins trade. Like I said, I'm going to hype this Wiggins to San Antonio train. Let's get Kawhi here. I have no idea if this is realistic. I don't have any inside information, but to me, it doesn't seem like a terrible trade if Kawhi wants out of San Antonio. That's my pipe dream. But who knows? It will be interesting to see kind of how this scenario plays out.
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see. And I think you make a great point with Andrew Wiggins may not be comfortable as a third option. Some guys aren't. Some guys need the ball in their hands and don't play well with other people. Again, I think that's up on the coach to figure out how he can use these other pieces together. And a guy that's maybe not comfortable as a third option, how you can get him involved in the offense as well. Want to know what you guys think? Is there problems with Andrew Wiggins? Are we going to have to move on from him in the future? Do you like Carter's Kawhi trade? Is that something that you want to see? Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.